Now let's talk about how to build an audience. And this is where we really transition into building a real sustainable business, the kind of thing that you can hand off to your kids and sort of build a legacy with. And real quick story before I get into this, my older brother at one point had got into doing insurance. And one of the things that is pretty common in the insurance business is when a particular agent decides that they want to retire, the insurance company will find their replacement, and then that agent will hand off their book of business to that new agent. And that book of business is a very highly sought after thing in the insurance business. And so if you can come in as a new agent and you're able to get with a company that does that and you're able to get a book of business, you can often go from brand new, making nothing in the insurance business, to suddenly making a very substantial income in a very short amount of time. And a lot of insurance agents try to get their kids into it, and they hand their book of business off to their kids and so forth. So again, when we talk about building a legacy, your audience is part of that. Your book of business, your clientele certainly is a big part of that, but also your audience. And so these are real assets that you're building long term. A lot of times when companies are sold, the email list, for example, of that company is a part of the valuation, because businesses know those are real value when it comes to a business. So again, this is just, I want you to think longer term about this, and it being, again, building a real sustainable business through this, and that your audience is a part of that. Now, just to sort of hammer home the point here of an audience, because you might be wondering, well, why do I need to do this? What's the point of this? And this is a quote from Gary Vaynerchuk, but really more than a quote. This is something that he hammered away at in his videos and blog posts and speaking engagements for a number of years. I happen to believe is true. Even if you don't know who Gary is or necessarily like who he is, I still think this happens to be true. And we'll talk about some numbers that sort of back it up. But one of the things he said is, whether you like it or not, every person is now a media company. The tools are easy, free, and everywhere. More importantly, producing content is now the baseline for all brands and companies. It literally doesn't matter what business you're in, what industry you operate in. If you're not producing content, you basically don't exist. And like I said, there's numbers that sort of back this up. And when the way I look at it is, content marketing essentially is online marketing these days. Creating content is simply the cost of doing business. So looking at these statistics, and I'll just sort of run through these. So small businesses with blogs get 126% more lead growth than small businesses without it. And again, leads they can be different things in different industries. In our case, it's essentially going to be names and email addresses, but those things are valuable they're valued in a business. They become a real asset. So 126% more lead growth is a big deal. Content marketing generates over 3 times as many leads as outbound marketing and costs 62% less. So content marketing is viewed as a form of inbound marketing, where you're trying to attract leads into you to contact you. Whereas outbound marketing is where you're doing outbound sort of advertising or telemarketing. You're going and putting yourself in front of them. And so again, content marketing as an inbound marketing strategy gets over 3 times as many leads at 62% less. So that's, again, a big deal. Populating websites with blog content is how you end up with 434% more search engine indexed pages than other business sites that don't publish content. So if you're thinking about SEO at all when it comes to your freelance business, the way that you do SEO is through creating content. Now, the days of putting up a sales page and, linking it in a bunch of directories and that sort of thing, those days are pretty much long gone. You need to be creating content in order to get ranked in the search engines. Next, content marketing ranks in conversion rate 6 times higher than other methods. Finally, content marketing gets 3 times the leads per dollar spent compared to paid search. And I think probably the bigger thing here is when you're first getting into freelancing, this is a new thing. Maybe you have a job and you have some income you can spend on ads, but a lot of people don't or simply don't want to. And creating content is a simple, free way that you can start advertising your business and get going and sort of build this methodically over time without having to invest a bunch of money into ads and not know whether your sales page, your services page is going to work or not. So again, it really is, content marketing has become online marketing. If you're not creating content, I mean, Gary Vee said it perfectly. If you're not creating content, you basically aren't in business online these days. So when we talk about building an audience, we're talking about building an audience around our content, and we're talking about building an audience of people who are prospective clients. So we have to build it in a very specific way. So let's talk about the funnel. So the funnel is essentially how you're going to attract these people and ultimately sell them on your services. So you attract new potential clients with content, you convert them into qualified leads, and then you sell them your services. So the three things to remember when it comes to the funnel is traffic, leads, and sales. So traffic is kind of what you would think. It's blogging, it's YouTube, it's podcasting, it's social media, it can be paid advertising. It's essentially getting you in front of eyeballs and getting those people to then go to your website, and where you want them to go is to your lead capture page. So that's the second step here, which is you create a lead magnet to capture email addresses at a minimum, probably name and email addresses, so that you can then follow up and continuously contact and sell those prospective clients. Now, I email on a daily basis, and every email I send, I sell my products. And so since I've done that, my business has grown probably 4 or 5 times what it was when I wasn't doing that. So it's really a pretty simple equation. The more people you can get on your email list and the more often you email them, the more money you're going to make. And so that's the simple idea here. Put up some piece of content on, let's say, for example, YouTube. At the end of the video, push them towards your lead magnet, whatever one you have, or if you have multiple ones that make sense. And then once they're on that email list, you just relentlessly follow up and sell them on your services. It really is that simple and straightforward. And the better you get at it, the more you do it, the more you're going to get clients, the more you're going to make, etc. And so, as I've already covered here, the third step is your sales, which is your sales pages. So your services page, your emails on a hopefully daily basis, and then any sort of content that you might create that's designed to sell them. For example, I take my emails and I cross-post them onto my blog. So technically that's not an email. When someone finds it on my blog, it's a blog post. So it's content, but it does the same thing. It sells my products. So again, that's the funnel. Those are sort of the basic steps. We'll talk about sales in the next lesson, so we'll get into that a little bit. But I want to talk about traffic and leads here, because this is your audience. When we talk about building an audience, this is what you're doing. So when it comes to traffic, you want to create relevant content to attract potential clients. The big thing I want you to understand here is you need to, again, this is why going back to picking a niche is so important, doing the research, understanding your market, because you need to know what their needs and their wants and their problems are. If you know that, then you can start to create content around that provides solutions to those problems. So the steps in this are: first, identify problems your audience is facing, and then create content to solve those problems. So for example, I sell a PHP course. One of the best-selling pieces of content that I have for my PHP course is a blog post on my website where I talk about how to create a login form or a login system using PHP. Now, this is a little bit more maybe technical advanced stuff, but this is a problem. This is a big thing that people want to know how to do with the coding language PHP. So we created a blog post where I show how to do that. So I've found a problem and I've created a solution, but then I did the second thing. I made it useful but incomplete. So in my course, I go through in detail about how to build this login system all the way out. And I, again, just show it in detail, go through every line of code, explain everything. In the blog post, however, I just take out sort of the big chunks, the big sort of steps that you have to take, and I show little snippets of code. So if in my course, the the total code to do this login system, let's say, is 100 lines of code, I maybe put 25 lines of the code in the blog post. And then at the end of the blog post, I say, if you want to take the full course and learn how to do this, then take my course. So it's useful, but it's incomplete. It shows them some of it, but not all of it. And that blog post gets the most traffic of any blog post on my site, and it sells a lot of that particular product. So this is the kind of thing that you want to do. Now, I sort of play around with things. Sometimes if you go to my site, you may see this, so I figure out how to address it. But sometimes I point them to the lead magnet. Sometimes I point them directly to a product or service in my blog posts or my YouTube videos or my podcast, whatever. The reason I do that is because I already have built up a substantial email list. So I'm not in this phase of just trying to build this massive email list. I'm more in the stage of creating customers and so forth. When you first start out, I highly recommend that you point them to your lead magnet. And the reason that is because you are likely not going to be very experienced in selling people on your products and services. So the way the sort of the catch-all, or the way that you deal with that, the trump card, so to speak, is that you get them on your email list, and then you can follow up with them over time, and you get multiple shots at it. Okay, I've been doing this for almost 14 years. I've done it for quite a while, so I have a pretty good sense of how to sell my products and services. So I will do that directly on my blog post. But really, the best way to do it, especially if you're starting out, is just to point them to your lead magnet at the end of your content. And so what you do is you create a piece of content. I'll just tell you what I do. So every day I write an email, and in that email, at the end of the email, I will promote a particular product or service. Then I will repurpose that, and I will post that on my blog. When I post on my blog, it gets auto-posted to my Facebook, to LinkedIn. There's a link created on Twitter. I sort of automate that stuff. And then I will also record a YouTube video where I essentially just sort of read through that blog post or that email. I'll create a little bit of a presentation, either with slides or some web pages that I'll click through as I go through it. But I'll essentially be going through the email that I wrote. I will upload that to YouTube. I will also output an audio version and upload that as a podcast. So every day I have an email that goes out. I have a blog post that goes out. I have a YouTube video that goes out. I have podcasts that goes out. It also gets posted to medium.com, and all of that stuff gets shared on my social media. So I'm hitting everything every single day, and it's with the exact same piece of content. So wherever somebody follows me, they're getting the message. They're not going to miss it. Sure, some people will be on your email list and on your YouTube channel, and maybe even listen to your podcast, whatever. They'll get it multiple times, but they can then decide how they want to consume it. So it's not a bad thing. And I've literally never had anybody say to me or get upset, hey, why do you do this? I think I maybe had one person ask one time. I explained it, and they're like, oh, that makes sense. So again, you want to get it out into as many channels as you can, but you can use the same piece of content. You don't have to create 10 pieces of content every day. Take the same one and just repurpose it. And again, at the end of it, at the end of the blog post, at the end of the email, at the end of the YouTube video, podcast, etc., point them to your lead magnet. Say, if you want to learn more, you want to take the next step, go to blah, blah, blah.com and get my free whatever. Okay. We'll talk a little bit more about your lead magnet here in a second, but that's how you create this system of attracting people to you and then capturing them onto your email list. And that's what's going to help you build your audience, because you can not only promote your products and services in your email list, but you can also now and again promote your YouTube video, promote your podcast, promote your blog, and now that becomes traffic from your email list to your blog, to your YouTube, etc. So this is how you grow your audience. All right, so that's traffic. And then the next step, of course, is leads. And so you use lead magnets to capture leads. Now, you may not be familiar with what a lead magnet is. Essentially, the idea behind the name is it is something that will attract leads to you. So the way to think of it is a kind of magic bullet for your audience. It's something that, or maybe you want to use the word magic pill. If you've ever seen those diet pill commercials where it's like, hey, just take this pill and do nothing else, and you'll automatically lose weight and be ripped, right? That's a magic bullet. It's the exact thing that they want without them having to do just a ton of work. Now, I'm not suggesting that you lie to people or make things up or whatever, but the point is that you want to find something that they really want badly and make a lead magnet around that. So a good example for me is source code. As being a developer, being a coder, someone who creates websites, one of the things that people in my industry want is source code. Instead of me showing them how to do it and them learning how to do it, they just want the code to make it work. That's a magic bullet for them. So when I first started creating content, I would put that out on my blog posts. What I learned over time was that source code is a really powerful way of selling products and services or getting people on your email list. So I moved it behind my email list. Eventually, you'd have to subscribe to my email list in order to get access to my source code. And eventually I moved it solely into my products. There's some that's still out there, but for the most part, if you want to get access to my source code, you have to buy my products. And that's because I know it's a magic bullet. So again, creating a lead magnet around something like that. Again, this is going to take thought. It's going to take you knowing your market. This is, again, why picking a niche and doing that research back there is so important, because when you know your audience, you're going to know the answer to this. You're not going to have to rack your brain trying to figure out. It's going to be obvious to you. So again, you want to create a lead magnet around that. The other thing you want to make sure and do with it is make sure it's a quick win. One of the natural reactions that you might have when you hear this is, oh, I'm going to write, a 100-page ebook that answers every single question and tells them everything they could ever want to know. And I'll just tell you from experience, if you do that, your lead magnet will be a flop, because people just don't have time for it and they're not sold on you enough yet to do that. So if you have a 100-page ebook, they might read 5 pages and then give up on it. You got to give them something quick, something that they can, read in a half hour or something really or watch a video or whatever it is that they consume very quickly. And from that, they can get a certain result. They don't have to get everything 100%, but get some sort of result. And then it's your service that is the big win, that you're going to create this whole thing for them and you're going to do it and they don't even have to do anything. So to give you an example of all of this when it comes to lead magnets, I'd recommend taking a look at johnsfreetoots.com. This is a free tutorial site. Essentially what I've done is I've taken lessons from my paid courses and I made them available for free over on this site behind, of course, a subscription. So if you subscribe to my email list, you get access to lessons from my PHP course or, my Upwork course or most of my courses are over there this way. And then what I do is, for example, with my PHP course, the first sort of portion of my PHP course is 11 lessons, I believe. And it all builds up to the 11th lesson where you build a contact form. And so I put that entire first segment available for free on the site. And so people, when they go there, they go through the lessons and they actually build something and they build this contact form and they come away from that going, hey, I actually learned some code and I built something real. It's a quick win. And then if they want to take the rest of the course, which is 2-3 more modules, something like that, then they have to go to the paid part of it and take that course. And so it gives them a quick win and at the same time promotes the big win. And just one more example of this, a quick win for me would be, hey, build the contact form, right? That's the quick win. The big win is learning how to code PHP. And that's what you're going to do in your course. So just to hopefully make that clear, you want the quick win in your lead magnet and you want to make it a magic bullet. For me, again, like a login form or a contact form, those are magic bullets for my audience. Those are things they really want to learn how to do. And so I make those in my lead magnets, and those lead magnets get a lot of people that sign up and then ultimately sells my product as a result of that. So Again, that's what you want to do. Get them on your email list so you can then follow up with them. All right, so like I said, we'll get into selling your products and services in the next lesson. This one I wanted to talk about building the audience, but just to summarize, again, you want to create content that attracts prospective clients to you. You want to create useful but incomplete content that attracts potential clients, and then you push your readers, viewers, listeners, whatever, to your lead magnets in every piece of content, and then you sell those people that are your leads now on your services. And that's what we're going to talk about next. All right, so coming up, as I mentioned, we're going to talk about how to sell your services. Then we're going to get into how to deliver like a pro and make your clients happy so that clients see you as a professional freelancer and they feel comfortable hiring you again and recommending you to other people, which is a natural lead into what we'll get into after that, which is how to get referrals. And just to say now, so that you'll stick around for that lesson, getting referrals, any service business, which freelancing is a service business, any service business, referrals are the lifeblood of that business. So everything we've done up to this point is designed to get to the point where when someone works with you, you will get referrals from that person. That's what's really ultimately going to make your freelance business successful. So you'll definitely want to stick around for that lesson.